AI is everywhere right now, and for many leaders, it feels both urgent and completely overwhelming. In this episode, we are going to slow things down and talk honestly about the fears, the hype, and what works inside real companies. We'll look at how to move from buzzwords to concrete use cases on your own data, how to manage change, and reduce friction for your teams. If you are wondering how to turn AI from a risky experiment into a practical advantage for your organization, this conversation is for you. Welcome to our podcast. Today we'll be talking about something many leaders are concerned about lately. AI is moving fast, and many organizations feel they are standing still or even might have missed the train. My guest today is Paulina Dubowik, who, together with her expert teams, helps companies not just experiment with AI, but transform how they work so AI becomes a real competitive advantage.
Thanks for having me. What I see everywhere is the same pattern. There's a lot of pressure to do something with AI, but at the same time, organizations feel uncertainty and a lot of fear, I would say. One of our primary goals here at DS Stream is to help our clients change this chaos into a practical roadmap. And we'll guide them, partner them through this path, also through the messy bits of AI, so that we make sure that the AI sticks, that it moves the needle.
So if we are talking, and we could start maybe with the fears that you mentioned, when you are entering an organization and starting with, let's talk about AI, what is the most common thing that you usually hear and you usually start with?
Right. In consulting, we have the big four, and I often joke that there are also big four fears when we talk about AI. First of them, what I hear is we will invest a lot in AI, but we will see no ROI. Or we have no resources, no data, no time, no people to do it safely. AI will break what is already working. And the fourth one, we will stuck in pilot phase, test after test, and no viable long-term solution. And well, these concerns are rational. According to many reports, including the one from McKinsey on State of AI 2025, every 2 out of 3 digital transformations fall short from their potential. But it's not the fact that the technology is bad. It might be rather so that the companies have not yet been given the possibility, the environment, support to absorb this IT change and change that into results.
So it's more about organizational limitations, let's say, not technology.
Yes,
you can
yes, I agree. AI is rarely the bottleneck. The challenge is to inject the AI into those core processes, forecasting, campaign planning, any optimization. When you start with those tasks and bake AI into them, that's where adaptation is more natural, a bit easier.
MIT, Stanford, others talk a lot about grounding AI in strategy and real business problems. And how do we as a company help our clients to go from we should do AI to a few concrete, maybe high impact use cases?
Mm-hmm. In DS Stream, we strongly believe that we should start with the outcomes, not a particular tool or model. What we do with our clients is discuss the question, where do they lose opportunity, resources today? And then we can map those pain points into various AI use cases. To give you a few examples, the simulation is one of the most resource-consuming area. You can simulate pricing, promotions, supply chain, anything that's a very complex topic. For one of our clients that was, I believe, FMCG and their logistics division, we were asked to simulate the probable impact of law changes, regulations. A small change regarding the professional drivers regulations impacted, surprisingly, numerous processes, from supply chain planning through hiring, maintenance, very complex, very time-consuming and resource-consuming process. Another group of use cases could be, let's say, digital twins. You can simulate a new flavor of your product, a new packaging of your product, and test, validate how your customers would assess this kind of change. Third group of those use cases might be researching. You can research for a new market or a new client segment. For one of our clients from food industry, we were asked to create a solution that would actively look for new customers, new potential customers based on their customer persona. And before we jump to the next questions, let me add the fourth one close to my heart. Extracting valuable insights from endless stream of data. Whoever worked with the log-level data knows how painful it is to plunge into that well of data. Once we have the use cases collected, we can start with designing our POCs. But there are 3 non-negotiables. 1, the POC must use the real data. 2, we insist that is anchored in real workflow. And 3, it must have a clear success metric that matters to the business.
So basically, as I'm hearing, it's like learning by doing.
Exactly.
But in a controlled way.
That's true. For example, for one of the biggest CPG companies, we worked with their operations team and built an AI assistant on top of their existing ticketing system, SharePoint documentation, feedback from client, you name it. And the goal here was not to solve every problem of the organization in one shot, but rather show them, create a clear win, and show the team how the AI can be used in their context, how AI can bring value to their business.
Mm-hmm. And you were mentioning that starting very early with clients' own data is very important. Yes, and why is so?
Mm-hmm. Well, 2 reasons. First, trust. The moment our clients start using their data, something clicks. AI stops becoming a toy, and now it's a tool. Second, constraints. What we often see is that as we start applying AI on top of the solution or into the solution, access, data quality, or governance issue show up. Example, we had a client that was very proud that they have numerous sources of data, and that's wonderful, but they kept only 7 days of data. Well, if you want to work on seasonality or model seasonality, well, that's not enough. The good thing is here that we spotted that at the very beginning, and we were able to find a solution that suited both sides.
Well, quite a lot here is about trust. And as we were talking even in our previous podcast, usually, and there are also kind of, voices on the market, clients are simply afraid of providing their data. Yeah, the limitation that you mentioned in example, this is a kind of effect of those fears. So how do we manage? How do we convince our customers that it's really, this is worth?
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right to be cautious. It's not smart to be casual about where your data is, how it's used. But in reality, in many organizations, at least part of the data is already in the cloud. Employees, consciously or not, paste the information into the different AI solutions without any guardrails. So the risk exists whether we acknowledge it or not. And the solution here is not to hide from it, but rather get ahead. And what we suggest is, for example, building an AI strategy so providing your employees with approved, chosen solutions rather than letting them use any available solutions without any guardrails.
Why do you think some of the AI initiatives, implementations fail? Because it's not a matter of the implementation as such, only that people simply don't adopt the solution, right? And what do you think is the most important, how we can change it?
Let me start with the distinction between the change management and friction management. The first one looks at macro side. This is the vision, the scenarios, participants, adaptation curves. It gives you the answer of how to move the team from state A to B. Whereas friction management zooms into microscale. How many clicks and system changes do I need to collect all the data needed for this decision? For AI implementation and related mind shift, we need both. What we can do, or what are the examples? Let's start with engaging the team, making sure that the participants are in the process of creating, designing, and assessing the tool instead of just giving them the final one. When we are talking about engaging the team, an interesting concept comes to mind, the AI contextual literacy. It is an intersection between the AI literacy and domain knowledge. In here in the stream, we pay a lot of attention to this area, and we know how important it is to make sure that the particular business, that our partner knows what AI can do and cannot do in a particular space. Example, if you are a head of marketing, AI can help you with what? With summarizing, with research, with preparing slide decks, right? Or creating some content. But it will not handle the discussion on the top level with the C-level executives, right? Another important thing for the contextual AI literacy is the fact that we have to remember that it allows us to handle or judge the output of the AI system. I had the pleasure of working with digital marketers, with programmatic teams, and what they love are TLAs. Do you know what a TLA is?
Actually not, so maybe...
TLA is three-letter abbreviation. They use it everywhere, on every page, every slide, every note. And as you can imagine, it's very specific for this area. So AI cannot handle that without any mistakes. Another idea that might improve our rate of success when it comes to AI adoption is looking at the implementation from the journey perspective and not the feature. For example, if my journey was to create a quarterly category review for one of the retailers, I would start with mapping the process, digitally or traditional post-it notes. Look at the path and decide in what part AI could help me. Where can I shorten this path? Maybe summary, maybe research, maybe forecasting when it's category review. But at the same point, we have to remember that there is a need to add checkpoints. If there was some content generated, sign off. If there were numbers for forecasting, make sure someone validates that. Another aspect, very important but often neglected, is communication. What I remember from the lectures of Professor Rao from Stanford was that he used this phrase, avoid jargon monoxide. Be clear, communicate. In our context, that would mean make sure that everyone knows what AI solution, in this case in your business, will do and will not do, especially when it comes to jobs and responsibilities. Another idea that I remember from the lecture was the feedback loop. And by that, I mean a discipline circle, or cycle rather, of collecting, analyzing, acting on it, and going back to the team. An example comes to mind here. One of our clients decided to test the AI capabilities when they collected feedback. And the issue here was not the fact that the clients, the users, were reluctant to give feedback. The problem was that they received feedback in tens of languages and dialects. That was the case here. And finally, I believe my colleague mentioned that in one of the previous episodes, it is well advised to, it's proven to be successful, really, to use the tools that are just one click away from the stack that the team is already working. Let's avoid adding a new platform to their pile.
So quite a lot of words, keywords kind of you used, like communication, feedback, etc. is also about, and also how people see the solution.
Exactly.
A leadership, right? So how about this leadership level? Quite important, as I can hear it.
That's right. Well, leaders must model the behavior. They have to be invested in and interested in AI. They have to reward experimentation, not perfection. They have to be, the ambassadors, or as my colleague loves to call them, the champions of the change. What we see in those companies that succeed is the fact that the leaders there treat AI as a capacity, long-term capacity, rather than one-time shot. They might, for example, create a quarterly reviews where business, data, and IT people sit together and decide which project to start, which to retire, which POC launch in the coming months, exactly as they would treat every other core product. Another idea, which I like, it's a bit clumsy, but I like it. Some teams treat AI as yet another person in their org chart, another colleague. They assign it tasks, they evaluate those tasks, and they modify the cooperation between teams as the business evolves.
Very interesting, actually, very interesting. But yeah, can't imagine actually nowadays not to treat AI as kind of, disruptive change, right? So called. But okay, when it comes to leadership, to leaders who take the decision, what would be a very short framework for the start that you would give to one?
Well, practical and easy, that's the key point here, right? I would start with clarifying why. Choose 2 or 3 use cases where you can apply AI to which you can apply AI. What that can be. Maybe you're looking for a new stream of revenue, maybe a new market, maybe you want to change or test your client persona. Once you have that, select 1-2 lighthouse POCs. That must be small enough to be safe, but big enough to show some results. For example, in fashion industry, that might result in selecting just one category, dress, and that gives us hot couture POC, right? In next step, it's everything about engaging users. Make sure you work with your team, you work on the real data, you keep the feedback, collect, analyze the whole cycle, and then please make sure that you measure the results. Last but not least, codify, document, and scale. Look what worked. change that into playbooks, share knowledge, and repeat the process. That's how you build your AI muscle in the organization. That's how you scale AI in your business.
Okay, and probably some of leaders are listening right now and thinking, okay, it's interesting. I know it's, kind of future or the future even. And I would like to have it implemented, have it built. Nevertheless, I do not have enough capacity in my team. What can we do? How can we help?
Mm-hmm. We can step in as a partner in the initial phase, in the assessment phase, and then partner the client through the several initial cycles. What that would mean, we would start with running an AI awareness assessment, a robust analysis to check where the company is, where it comes to skills, knowledge, and use cases related to AI. Then we would select several POCs, 2-3 POCs, the lighthouses, like the lighthouses I mentioned a moment ago. Then time to work. Hands-on with the team, with real data, no slide decks or demo labs at this point. Work, prepare the solution. And finally, we would prepare some change management, training to make sure that the client has internal capacity to spot the AI opportunity, to apply it, implement it, and grow the business.
Okay, so we are coming to the end of our small discussion today. So a last advice, let's say, for any leader that is thinking where to start with even a small step, but to be there tomorrow, meaning starting building the AI organization.
Mm-hmm. One task, I would say, reach out and we will discuss it. But jokes aside, maybe something to trigger the mind shift. I would suggest take one team, several people, 2 or 3, bring them to a room and ask them, if I had a magic wand and I could give you any AI solution that would take away 30% of the pain, of the tedious work from your week, what would that solution have to do? And then listen. And this kind of conversation is, a game changer. It engages your team from the very beginning. It connects AI to the reality of your business, and it illuminates the real problem, not the assumed ones.
Fantastic. So this is what we encourage to.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Paulina, for this discussion.
Much.
It was very nice to having you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much as well.